Today for you, why Narcissa Malfoy hated Lord Voldemort so much, that and more, now in this video. In today's video, we want to talk about Narcissa Malfoy and Lord Voldemort and the rift between them. Narcissa Malfoy was not a staunch supporter of Lord Voldemort. But why was that? Was there one or more specific reasons for this? In fact, Narcissa Malfoy was more interested in supporting her husband's role in the Dark Lord's inner circle because she believed it was her duty as a wife to support him. She wanted to protect her family and her husband above all else, as they were a threat to her. But don't get me wrong, Narcissa Malfoy wasn't against everything the Death Eaters did, and she only did it because she wanted to support Lucius. Oh no, she was a staunch pure-blood advocate, and held her family's belief that the wizarding world needed to be restored through pure-blood wizards and witches. As many of you know, Narcissa came from the Black family, who were very strong advocates of the pure bloodline, and were keen to keep their bloodline pure. Narcissa had two sisters, Andromeda and Bellatrix. Of all three sisters, she really hit the nail on the head, not only in terms of her choice of partner, but also in terms of her choice of love. And I don't mean that sarcastically at all, because Narcissa married Lucius Malfoy out of love and not out of compulsion. If we look at her two sisters, it looks a little different. Andromeda Tonks, for example, married Ted Tonks and was subsequently cast out of the Black family. However, the positive thing is that she married for love, even though she was disowned. Bellatrix Lestrange was a completely different story. She married a suitable partner, but not someone she loved. It was a functional marriage to a Death Eater, Rodolphus Lestrange. He was a pureblood, unlike Ted Tonks, who was a Muggle-born. Bellatrix certainly didn't have the most pleasant of marriages, I imagine. Narcissa, as mentioned earlier, was both lucky. She married for love and was not disowned. Narcissa supported Lucius Malfoy in all his decisions, and many of you will have noticed that Narcissa was not a Death Eater. Everyone else in the inner circle who sat at the table in the Malfoy manor was a Death Eater. But Narcissa never received the Dark Mark. And there was a reason for that. She didn't want to dedicate her whole life to serving Lord Voldemort. She did not want her main purpose in life to be to serve the Dark Lord. Her only goal was to ensure that her son Draco was well, and that he had a good upbringing. Lucius, on the other hand, was a Death Eater, and was fully in the service of the Dark Lord. He was even his right-hand man for a long time, and Narcissa trusted him. Her husband Lucius was in a good position at the Dark Lord's side. They believed that Voldemort was the man who would bring about change in the wizarding world. But that was before they could see the cruel and unforgivable side of the Dark Lord that they had never seen before, as Lucius had never laid eyes on it until Voldemort came back to power. The truth is that Voldemort knew all along that Lucius's loyalties were wavering, and that Lucius would choose himself and his family every single time if it came down to it. He wouldn't prefer the Dark Lord if he had to choose. And we all know that Voldemort simply could not accept that. Voldemort knew that Lucius was not loyal, and he recognized that from 2 points. Firstly, after the First Wizarding War, after Lord Voldemort had been defeated, Lucius claimed that he was under the Imperius Curse and had no control over having taken part in the actions. Death Eaters like Bellatrix Lestrange were different, as they were sent to Azkaban for Voldemort. Secondly, Lucius made no attempt to track down Voldemort after his disappearance. In 1981, Narcissa's cousin Sirius Black and her sister Bellatrix were both sent to Azkaban after the fall of Lord Voldemort. Her husband Lucius cleverly escaped this fate by claiming to have been under the Imperius Curse. In addition, the Malfoys claimed to be members of the social elite and to have connections to the Ministry of Magic, such as Cornelius Fudge and Dolores Umbridge. Instead, Lucius retreated with his family into his own comfortable life and meddled in Hogwarts affairs. Voldemort was not so lenient with Lucius on his return to power and punished his failures. He often punished and humiliated him, especially for his failure in obtaining the prophecy. Then the Dark Lord also brought Lucius's son Draco into the picture, further compounding Lucius's failure. Narcissa, who had always stood in her husband's shadow, could of course no longer bear the poor treatment of the two people she loved. And so Narcissa not only had to watch her husband being punished, but also her own son Draco being forced to live up to enormous pressure at the tender age of 16. She appealed to Severus Snape to help her son Draco, and as we know, was even successful. Draco tried to live up to his father's reputation and actually become the Death Eater he believed he should be. you'll probably already know that it almost destroyed Draco, and that it was only a matter of time before Voldemort would once again punish Lucius, Narcissa's husband. So it's no surprise that she took her chance when the opportunity presented itself. She showed her bravery in 2 moments. The first moment was when she lied right to Voldemort's face by falsely informing him that Harry Potter was dead. If there's one thing you shouldn't do with Voldemort, it's lie to him, as he almost always knew everything and could read people like no other. He had the ability to see through other people's thoughts and recognize when someone was lying. Only this time, it seemed to be a surprise, and she actually managed to hide the truth from Voldemort. She knew that Harry was the only chance she had of defeating the Dark Lord. She had lost her loyalty to him long before this moment, but this was the first active action she had actually taken against him. It didn't take much for Narcissa to give up her allegiance to Lord Voldemort, and that was because her family was threatened and mistreated by him. Therefore, it is quite understandable that she prioritized her actions when the opportunity presented itself. Her next act was to refuse to take part in the Battle of Hogwarts and only look after the welfare of her son Draco. She longed for the final downfall of the Dark Lord. There was no way she wanted a world with that person as its leader, and she was also smart enough to help Harry Potter defeat him by lying to Voldemort and staying out of the battle. In the end, Narcissa very much welcomed the failure of Voldemort, and so she did what she had to do to protect her family. And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up and a subscription. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments. See you next time at Harry Potter Analysis.